The memory system. A certain organization whose membership consisted of gag writers only was having its annual dinner at Swank Hotel in New York City. One of the membership rules of the organization was that the members would never actually tell a joke or a gag to each other. They had memorized all the standard gags by numbers, and instead of telling the joke, they would save time by simply calling the number of that particular one. During dinner, a situation would present itself, and any of the comedy writers thought of a gag to fit the situation. He would call the number and shout to the laughter would invariably go up. Number 148 called one of the one peals of laughter. Number 204 shouted another. More laughter. Toward the end of dinner, one of the new members shouted number 212 and was greeted by a loud silence. Whereupon his neighbor turned to him and said, "You'll soon learn, my friend, that it's not the joke that's important, but the way you tell it. Although the above is pure fiction, most people would say it's impossible to remember so many jokes by number. Let me assure you that it is possible, and I will teach you how in a later chapter. First, however, you must learn how to remember the numbers. Numbers themselves are about the most difficult thing to remember because they are completely abstract and intangible, and it is almost impossible to picture a number. They are geometric design. They mean nothing in our minds unless they have been associated to something. Over a period of time. Of course, your own address or your own telephone number does mean something to you. The problem is to be able to associate any and all numbers easily, quickly, and at any time. If you were to try to hang a painting on your bare living room wall, what would happen? Why, the painting would fall to the floor. Of course, however, if you had a tiny peg in that wall, then you would be able to hang the painting on it. What am I going to do to give you some pegs? No, not for your wall, but to keep your mind always anything you wish to remember. For now, on having to do with numbers in any way, you will be able to hang on these pegs. That is why I call this the peg system of memory. The peg system will show you how to count with objects, which can be pictured instead of numbers. This is not a particularly new, although it was first introduced by Stanislaus Mink von Winshine along about the year 1648. In the year 1730, the entire system was modified by Dr. Richard Gray of England, who called this idea letter or number equivalence. The idea was great, but the method was a bit clumsy because he used vowels as well as constants in the system, since however, well as consonants in the system. Since 1730, however, many changes have been made. Although the idea is basically the same, in order for you to learn the method, you must first learn a simple phonetic alphabet. No need for dismay. It consists of only 10 sounds, and with my help, it shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes to learn them. This will be most worthwhile 10 minutes you've ever spent, since this phonetic alphabet will eventually help you remember numbers in conjunction with things in such a way that you never would have thought possible. I will give you now a different constant sound of each of the digits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 0. These you must commit to memory. I'll make this simple for you by giving you a memory aid for reading each one. Read them carefully and with your full attention. The sounds for 1 will always be T or D. The letter T has a downstroke. The sound for 2 will always be N. Typewritten N has 2 downstrokes. The sound for 3 will always be M. Typewritten M has 3 downstrokes. Sound for 4 will always be R. Final sound of the word 4 is R. The sound for 5 will always be written L. Roman numeral 50 is L. The sound for letter 6 will always be 1, ch, soft G, etc. The letter turned around is almost like the number 6. The sound for 7 will always be K, hard C, and G. The number 7 can be used to form a K, 1/7 right side up and other side down. Okay. The sound for 8 will always be F. For V, written F, and figure 8 both have 2 loops, one above the other. The sound for 9 will always be P or B. The number turned around is P. The sound for 0 will always be S or Z, first sound of the word 0. If you will attempt to picture the little memory aid I have given with each one, you should remember them easily. Please keep in mind that the letters are not important. We are interested in the sounds only. That's why I call the phonetic alphabet. With some of the digits, I've given more than one letter. But the phonetic sounds of these letters are the same in each case. Your lips, tongue, and teeth are the same in each case. Your lips, tongue, and teeth are used in the same identical way. The sound P and B, or F and V, or J, sh, ch, etc. The sound for letter G is the exclamation G. would, according to the phonetic alphabet representation, 6, whereas the same letter in the alphabet represents 6, whereas the same letter in the alphabet word go would represent 7. The letter C in the word coat represents 7. The same letter in the word scent would represent 0, since it is pronounced with the S sound. The letter KN is the word keen, or knife, would stand for 2, because the K is silent. Remember, then it is the sound that's important, not the letter. Now look this over once. Turn away from the page and see if you remember the sound for each one. To 0, test yourself on remembering them out of order. 2. You should know them all by now. I could give you one more aid for memorizing these sounds by telling you, remember the nonsense phrase 10 more logic fibs. This will help you to memorize the sound in order from 1 to 0. It is necessary, however, to know them out of sequence, so you shouldn't have to rely on the nonsense phrase too long. The original memory aids that I gave you should suffice. This simple phonetic alphabet is the most important, and the sounds should be practiced until they are second nature to you. Once they are, the rest of the peg system will be kinch for you. Here is a method of practicing to help you learn the sounds thoroughly. Anytime you see a number, break it down into sounds in your mind. For example, you might see the number 3,746 on your license plate. You should be able to read it as KMKRJ. You might see the address 8529 and be able to read it as FLNP. You see, you can look at any word and practice breaking it down into numbers. The word motor would be 314. The word paper is 994, and cigarette would break down into 1,741. The double T is the same sound as T, therefore represents 1, not 11. None of the vowels A, E, I, O, or U have any meaning at all in the phonetic alphabet. Neither do the letters W, H, or Y. Remember the words Y, because before going any further, complete the following exercises. The first column of words should be changed to numbers, and the second column of numbers should be broken down into sounds. You are ready to now learn some of those pegs. I would suggest, however, that you know the sound thoroughly before you go on to the pegs themselves. All right, since we now know a certain phonetic sound, all the digits from 1 to 0, you can see that you can make up a world of many numbers, no matter how many digits it contains. For example, if we wanted to make world 421, we could use any of the following notes: not, gnat, knob, neat, note, night, etc., because they all begin with the N sound too, and end with a T or D. For 14, we could use tier, tire, tour, door, tire, deer, drive, dray, tree, etc., because they all begin with T and D. For numbered 1, and end with the R sound. For number 4, remember that we are interested in the consonant sounds only. Do you get the idea of how I form those words? If you do, then I could go ahead and give you the first few pegs. Each one of the peg words that I will give you have been specifically chosen because it's comparatively easy to picture in your minds, and that it's important since the number 1 contains only one digit, and that one digit is represented by the T or D sound. We must use a word that contains only that one consonant sound to use the word tie. From here on, in the word tie, will always represent the word 1 to you. As I said, it's important to be able to picture these objects, so I will give you an explanation of all those where I think an explanation is necessary. The word Noah will always be represent 2. Picture of the white-haired man on an ark with ark. The word Ma will always mean 3. Here I suggest that you always picture your own mother. The word Ray will always represent the number 4. You can picture either a bottle of Ray whiskey or a loaf of Ray bread. Once you decide on a particular mind picture for this or for any of the pegs, use that particular picture. Always you can see how I arrive at these words. They all have one consonant sound, and that one sound is representing the digit of numbers. The word law will always represent 5. The word law itself cannot be pictured. I suggest that you picture any policeman in uniform because they represent the law. Number 6 is the word shoe. Number 7 is the word cow. Number 8 is the word ivy. For this one, you can picture either poison ivy or ivy growing all over the sides of a house. Number 9 is the word bee. Number 10 has 2 digits. The digit 1 and a 0, the peg word for 10, therefore it must be made up of A, T, or D sound, and an S or Z sound, in that order. Well, we'll use the word toes. Picture your own toes. Ordinary, it would be a little difficult to remember 10 completely unassociated words. As I have just given you, since the peg word for any number must contain certain sounds, only you'll find that it is easy. As a matter of fact, if you have to read the 10 words once well, with a little concentration, you probably already know them. Try it. When you say the number to yourself, think of its sound. First, try to remember the peg word. Test yourself in and out of order. You should know that 3 is ma without representing Noah, ma, Tai Noah, ma. To show you how fantastic your memory can be, with little aids, you can do this until the word becomes second nature to you. If you can do a number and you think you can't remember, it's peg think of one sound of starting with and continuing that particular constant sound only when you can say the right one is will sort of ring a bell in your mind, and you'll know that that's the right one. For instance, if you couldn't think of a peg word for one, you might say to yourself toy, toe, tea, tie. As soon as you say tie, you'll know that that is the correct word. You can see now that I have built up slowly with each item. First, I gave you an aid to remembering the phonetic sounds. Now those sounds are your aid to remember the very important peg words, and the peg words will help you remember anything where numbers are involved to make sure you know them all. Peg system. Tai Noam, Ma, Fry, La Shu, Cow, Ivy, Beetle. Now if you feel that you know the first 10 peg words thoroughly, I'll show you how to use them for remembering objects in and out of order. I'll give you 10 objects out of sequence and prove to you that you can remember them after reading them only once. The first one listed is 9. Here, all you have to do is make a ridiculous or illogical association peg after 9, which is B. If you realize the importance of actually sending these ridiculous associations in your mind, you'll have no trouble for this one. You might see yourself opening a purse and a swarm of bees flies out of it swinging at you. Just see the picture for a moment. Then go to the next. 6. Shoe. Cigarette. You can see yourself smoking a shoe instead of a cigarette. See a million cigarettes falling out of a shoe. You can see yourself wearing a gigantic cigarette instead of shoes. 4. Right. Ashtray. You might see yourself dropping ashes into a scooped out loaf of rye bread instead of an ashtray, or you're buttering an ashtray instead of a slice of bread. I am giving you one or more ways that each object can be associated ridiculously. This is with its peg word. You are to use only one of these pictures for each one. Use one that I give you, or one that you think of yourself. The first illogical picture that comes to mind is usually the best one to use because that is the one that will come to mind later on. I'll help you with all 10 of them since it's the first time you are attempting this method. But after this, you should be able to do it without my help. 7. Cow, salt shaker. Your picture yourself making a cow, but the cow has salt shakers instead of others, or she has salt shaker coming out instead of milk. 3. Ma, lamp. You can picture your mother wearing a gigantic lamp instead of a hat. See the lamp going on and off. Action rule 2. 5. Law of typewriter. You might see the policeman putting handcuffs on a typewriter. You might see a typewriter walking the beat, swinging a club like a cop. A Noah television set. You might picture Noah sailing on a television set instead of an ark. 8. Ivy. Wristwatch. You can see millions of wristwatches going all over the side of your house instead of ivy, or you can see yourself wearing ivy instead of wristwatch. 1. Tie pin. Picture yourself wearing a gigantic fountain pen instead of a tie. You might see yourself writing with your tie instead of a fountain pen. 10. Telephone. You see yourself dialing with your toes, or you pick a telephone, but it turns out that you're holding your toes, probably talking to a hill. I take a piece of paper, number it from 1 to 10, try to fill in objects in order without looking at the book. When it comes to number 1, just picture your pig with a tie and the ridiculous picture, or you are wearing a fountain pen instead of a tie. We'll come back to you immediately. So you know that 1 is a fountain pen. When you picture Noah, you will see him on the television set instead of an ark. You know what 2 is television set. You will remember them all quite easy. The wonderful part about it is that you also know how to sequence. You can see, of course, that it makes no difference. You can also call them off the backwards. Just think of peg words for 10, toes, and work up to tie. You should now be thoroughly amazed at your own abilities. But wait, why not memorize 25 objects of only 10 instead of only 10? Well, at the end of this chapter, you will find the peg words for number 11 through 25. Please learn those just as you learned the first 10. When you know them perfectly, try it on your friend. Have them number a sheet of paper for 1 to 20 or 25, or many as you wish. To show off, then have him call out any of those numbers haphazardly and then name any tangible object. Ask him to write that object alongside the number called. Have him to do that until every number has an object next to it. Now call them right back from number one right down to the last. Then have him call any number and you immediately give him the object, or have him call any object and you tell him the number it is. Don't let that last word throw you through there. There's nothing to it. If I was to ask you now what number salt shaker was, you might see a ridiculous picture of a cow with salt shakers instead of udder. Since the cow is the peg for number 7, you might know you for number 7. Then you know that the salt shaker was 7. Watch the look of astonishment on your pal's face when you're through. Please do not go on to the next chapter until you are sure you know all the peg words 1 to 25. Tot, tin, tune, fire, towel, dishes, track, dove, tub, nose, net, none, name, Nero, now. For tot is the best picture of a child that you know. For 12, you can see the object called made of tin. For tune, the picture of a gray stone. For 20, you can see the object called on your face in place of your nose. For net, you can use either a fishing net or a hair net. For tennis, or a tennis net. For 23, you can see that the object you wish to remember forming your name. For instance, if the object were a cigarette, you would picture your own name printed out very large with cigarettes. If you don't care for the idea, you might picture your business card name or any other possession that has your name on it. Whatever you decide on, you must use it all the time. For Nero, I always picture a man playing a fiddle. Remember, please, that once you decide on a particular picture for any of the peg words, you are to use the picture all the time. If you know the pegs from 1 to 25 thoroughly, and I suggest you go on no further. I suggest you go no further until you do. And if you feel confident, or even if you don't, why not take a test? Why not take test 2 in chapter 3? In chapter 3, once again, try it, and then compare your present score with the original.